All right, guys, I
So
have another guest for you for this week's or one of this week's YouTube videos. This is Jelle. I think I pronounced that right. I remember Jelle.
yeah,
It's Jelle, but he's from the Netherlands, so my American, butchering, I apologize for that. But he was generous enough to join me for this interview. He is a YouTube subscriber, and he basically commented the other day, basically saying that he's a young producer. He's actually 24, and he's already got his foot in the door with a few different music libraries. Now, he's from the Netherlands, and he's working with a UK library, a US library, and I think one also from his home country. So he is successfully partnering with libraries all over the world. And this is something that I've been telling you guys is very possible. For those of you that are not in the US, you are a foreign citizen to the US, and you want to know, can I work with libraries in the US or in the UK or in other places? Absolutely, and we'll definitely talk a little bit about that. But some really exciting things are coming on board for this producer's career already, and being at such a young age, he's in a really great position to really grow his career. So why don't you go ahead and talk to us a little bit about your history, where you came from before you got into sync licensing, and what was it about this industry that really attracted you?
yeah. So I started with playing the piano when I was 11 years old, and basically I immediately learned that I could play what I want just by ear. I have autism, and this is a good thing about autism, that you can really focus on something. So I spent hours and hours with one song, and then I could play it instantly without the learning the notes. I still cannot read notes. I cannot write them. So I'm all doing it by ear. So I went to the Culture and Arts Center, and I went for piano lessons for 2 years, and then I scrapped that. Then I went to synthesizers, and I joined a rock band. And well, when I was in this rock band, I really thought we were making big money, we were becoming famous. But then we went to a lot of band competitions locally, and there were a lot of bands in the same genre we were playing in. And it's also very hard to be distinctive with this genre, because it was pop rock, and there are millions of pop rock bands. And we came far with this band competition, but we didn't win. So we were invited for a network day in Amsterdam for musicians, organized by the PRS in the Netherlands. Um, so we went there, and we had 5 record labels we could talk to. And after 4 record labels, we were tired of being called mediocre and tenantless. So we stepped out of the door, and just when I was getting out of the door, I heard that there was a spot free with a record label. And I thought, fuck it, I'm just going to try it again. But this time I do it for my own music, my orchestral music, instead for the rock band. So I went there, and there was a lucky shot. I got invited for an audition almost immediately. And from that audition, it was clear that my mixes needed some improvement. So I thought, can I learn all these things via YouTube or via online platforms? But then I knew there was a school in Amsterdam, the SAE Institute, which is good for a lot of networking. So I decided to go for that. And after a few months, my mixes have improved drastically in that period. And within 2 months from the rejection that my mixes weren't good enough, I got accepted with a deal, basically, a blanket license.
Awesome, man.
So
Congratulations.
yeah,
And
thank you.
yeah, don't worry. Even the Beatles were told they had no talent, so never take that personally. People get things wrong all the time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So what was it then? I know that you said in your comment that you were looking online, looking for information about how to succeed in this industry. What were some of the things that you took away when you stumbled across my videos that really helped navigate you through getting closer to success, and obviously now being accepted by 3 different libraries? What were some of those key things that you took away from my videos?
Well, especially the PRS kind of videos, because I was signing with a record label. I made a lot of tracks for them. And then actually I needed to submit them to the PRS here in the Netherlands. And that was really daunting, because we are working with a crappy system. So it's just had an update, so it's better right now. But when I started 1 year ago, it was just like the Windows XP from PRSs and that kind of stuff. So there was a lot of information that I needed to check into, and this is where your videos came along, and it really helped me big time, basically. So it's really good look online for this kind of videos because they really help you out and they really help my out with my career, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is really important stuff. Just so you guys are aware, if you're confused, PRS, Performing Rights Society, is just another thing for a PRO, Performing Rights Organization. So every country either has one or two or multiple ones, and they just call them one of the two of these terms. So just so you guys are not confused about that. But yeah, and that is such an important topic for all producers to be aware of, is that your registrations are your lifeblood. So if your tracks are not being registered, and in this particular situation, he obviously had to register his tracks himself. If you're not taking it upon yourself to understand how to do that and how to make sure that your tracks are showing up in your PRO account, you're not getting paid. So this is a really, really crucial thing, and I'm glad that you obviously were able to take that from my videos. Now, just so you guys are aware, most libraries will be handling a lot of the registrations themselves. Obviously, some of them won't, but in my experience, in almost every, other than this one situation, I've heard of most of my students, when you get your tracks accepted by a library, usually they will take that because a lot of times they're going to want to include their publishing company and their publishing IPI number along with your tracks, because they usually are going to be taking the publishing royalties and distribute the writer's share royalties to you. So that's why they usually handle that registration to make sure it gets done correctly. But if that's the situation, that's fine. Ask them how long it takes. Usually it's about a month or two. But then always double check your PRO account and make sure that those tracks do actually show up, because it certainly happened where the wrong writer gets attributed to a song, or somebody throws a co-writer onto your track that you didn't co-write with. Or sometimes fraudulent, scammy things can happen where people can take credit for your song or throw themselves as a writer on your tracks when they weren't the writer. So it could be a mistake and it could be something a little bit more fraudulent, but whatever it is, you just need to make sure as the composer, you are double checking that stuff and making sure that you are staying on top of that stuff. And I'd say about once a month or so, log in, make sure the tracks that have been accepted and are showing up with the library are actually showing up also in your PRO account. Now let's talk about the fact that you are obviously living, you're a Netherlands citizen, but you've partnered with a US company and a UK company. How did you do that? What were the steps you needed to take in order to partner with these kind of international companies?
Well, first of all, I was looking for different kind of libraries within my network of the composers here in the Netherlands. And I heard a lot of good stuff about one record label in the US. So I was just like, well, if I don't shoot for it, I will never hit it. So I tried to reach out to them via email. But then I knew after I read on their website, they didn't accept submissions anymore within that same month. So I tried a month later, and I got a mail back within an hour that I was accepted. Basically, I sent a lot of demos. Well, not a lot, maybe 5, because otherwise you're spamming them a lot. So I sent 5 demos to them, and within an hour, I got a reply that I was accepted for that library, basically. So actually, just looking on the internet, what kind of record labels are there in my style? I don't care about in which country they are. I just send an email with a few proper demos, and if I get accepted, then that's a good thing. If I get rejected, then I try it again a few months later.
And did they have you require any additional paperwork? Because I know that there's a form, the IRS form, W8BEN form is usually what international or foreign citizens have to file with the IRS if they're going to be earning and generating income through the US. Did they walk you through any of that?
No, they just signed me or they sent me an agreement. I think it was already in there, but it was actually just a standard blanket fee license agreement. But I haven't seen anything of that yet. So
okay.
I think
it'd just be something to keep in mind, and then ask your library, do you guys require this? Is this something that I should do on my own independently? But you're right, some libraries will include that as a form within their contract if they know you're going to be a foreign citizen, obviously, because if there's one thing that's sure, it's taxes, and the U.S. government is definitely going to want to take their cut of, and royalties are certainly included on the income that they're going to be taking a cut of. Like it or hate it, it's just, this is what it is. And you definitely want to be above board with all your paperwork and all that reporting and stuff, just to make sure that if something doesn't get, a T doesn't get crossed, a form doesn't get filled out, things slip through the cracks. You don't want to jeopardize your relationship working with a U.S. company just because this one silly form wasn't signed or whatever. So that would be one thing. It's called the W-8BEN form, and if you just Google search that, look it up on Google, you'll be able to find a form. And definitely, I would say for everybody watching, including you, if you're an international composer working with a country, not even just those that are wanting working in the U.S., but if you're a U.S. composer working with a U.K. library or somewhere else, ask them what are the tax forms I need to fill out to ensure that we're all above board, everything is being reported here, because you certainly don't want to jeopardize your relationship, especially if working with that library might generate you tens of thousands of dollars in back end. You don't want to be audited. You don't want to have somebody coming after you later on saying you didn't pay your taxes. So you just want to make sure that all that stuff is kind of done from day one. It's just a smart thing to do. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Now you're a young producer, so usually somebody your age doesn't want to get into TV film licensing because they're still, as I was when I was your age, still, you know, I was in a band as well, and I wanted a tour, and I wanted the girls screaming at me, and I wanted all this kind of stuff. And so if you came to me back then, I mean, a part of me thought of this, that's why I didn't take this as seriously as probably as I did back then. I thought of it as maybe like a supplemental side income that I could do with my music. But most producers are not 100% committed at your young age. So what is it you're seeing that like really fits for you with this? Why you don't want to continue on 100%, you know, pursuing the band thing and going for that direction?
Well, with the band thing, it was every band member was a student at a different school. And it was not, for them, it was just a hobby. For me, it was actually, I want to make my bread and butter out of making music. And I saw in this networking day in Amsterdam with all the musicians, all the different bands, there were millions of bands. And actually, when I came across in that networking day, I only saw 2 other composers for TV. So I thought, I was always a big fan of film scoring. It was actually the Pirates of the Caribbean suite. That was my first song I ever played on a piano. And I already knew from my very young age that I wanted to be a composer for film and TV. So that also has been a part of it. What's also fun is that I can work in my own studio here at home, and I can work on my own, what I prefer more than over a band, basically. So yeah, I think I have this commitment to make a lot of music, and yeah, I love media, I love TV and film and games, and actually that's a win-win situation. So yeah, this is why I pursued for music in media instead for the bands, because it has my preference.
Awesome. Yeah. Sounds like you're very self-aware. You definitely have your priorities lined out, and you definitely saw that niche that you could really get into because, yes, everybody is trying to have the next big band that breaks, of course. And of only a small select few actually do make it. But, you know, I mean, these days with the internet, you don't have to have a large fan base to make a living. You know, you can find a small little niche group, but you're like you said, you could realize that the band that you were in, the sound that you had, was kind of played out. There were a lot of bands doing it. So it's like, how do you really, I mean, you have to put on some crazy masks and have some crazy live show. I mean, you have to really go above and beyond to really stand out these days just because of the internet. The fact that anybody can start a band, anybody can put out a music video, anybody can do all this kind of stuff. So it's great that the barrier to entry has been reduced, but that also means it's a crowded space. It's a very crowded field. And you're right. It's still, even though TV film licensing has gotten more popular in recent years, it's still the sort of unsung hero, the underdog, the kind of redheaded stepchild that nobody really knows too much about. And I don't know, I don't want to do anything like that. Or they don't think that they can participate in that they think it's just for those major label A-list artists that already have hits on the radio or on, you know, just already have a viral hit. And it's totally not true. It's actually for average Joes like me and like you that just want to serve this marketplace with our high quality music. So I'm hopeful that those of you that are watching this are encouraged by this, especially those are international producers not living in the US. Just know that there's really no excuse for you not to start working in this industry. You can do it exactly what he did, which was directly submit. Like you said, I like your expression there, which is like you just miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So if you're too scared and you don't want to submit, well, then you can just guarantee you won't have your tracks out there. But take a shot. And like you said, he just had to wait 1 month. He was just basically persistent and sort of knocking on the door. And eventually, if there's a home and a spot and you have high quality licensable music, you might find that there's a great possibility for you on this side of the industry. So thank you so much, Yele. One more time, pronounce your name?
Yeah, you said it correctly. Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Yele, okay. Well, thank you so much, man. I appreciate your time today.
No problem. It was a pleasure.